you look at the foreign press over the last several days, you will see that confusion, wanting not to be pushed around by America, but wanting very much to be led by America. He said it is time, too, to break the bad habit of expecting something for nothing. Very much a campaign promise. Doesn't want to keep people on welfare, prefers that there be workfare. And he said we must not expect always something for nothing, not only from government or necessarily from each other. As President Bush leaves, President Clinton comes in with a public commitment to reform the political system, to reform campaign reform. And he said exactly what George Bush and Ronald Reagan before him would always have said: the greatest strength is the power of American ideas, which are, President Bush has pointed this out many times, still new in many lands. President Bush says goodbye to the people who have flown him so many times to so many places. I'm not sure, David, that he's the most traveled president, but he has traveled.
I wouldn't say most traveled because he only had one term, but in the day of Air Force Two, which is so comfortable and so easy, you sleep on it, eat on it.
This photograph will go on all those walls, too. We saw early today at Blair House on Pennsylvania Avenue, as President Clinton was waiting for his family, a little of that Clinton peak. Get it moving, folks. When I want something done, I want it done. This man is astonishingly gracious to a fault, David, with people in all walks of life, and it will serve him, not to be too presumptuous about it, but it will serve him immensely well in his post-presidential life, I think.
Well, he may wear that hat they just gave him. I think it's called a field cap. One last time. Very rarely does a statesman get onto or off an airplane with a camera there that he doesn't stop and make a speech. Bush said no speech. Didn't even have a platform for it.
I know that Mrs. Bush, if not looking forward to this moment, does treasure what she perceives to be the opportunity to have more of George to herself. He has said he's going to go into the grandparent business. This has been very tough on Mrs. Bush, and a lot of people perhaps don't appreciate it. She's been a very public first lady. She's committed herself to literacy. She has been, in the pantheon of first ladies, one who has engendered enormous affection all across the country. And the question for her probably now is whether or not she really does have George Bush as much to herself as she hopes she will. She knew before this political campaign was over that he was going to lose. He now saying goodbye to members of his cabinet. Just to Mrs. Bush there is Jack Kemp, Housing and Urban Development. Widely regarded now to be a serious candidate for the Republican nomination 4 years from now. Dan Quayle really fought for his man in this presidential campaign, no question about that, David.
It did him a lot of good, did himself a lot of good. He was very effective, not effective enough, of course, but he did well in the campaign.
But as this president goes up the steps for the last time, I cannot help but think of the words of President Clinton when he said on the west face of the Capitol, the American people have summoned the change that is celebrated today. Raised their voices in an unmistakable chorus, cast votes in historic numbers, though certainly not all for Bill Clinton. And it is his view that the American people have changed the presidency, the political process, the face of the Congress. Well, we're all sitting here saying it would be totally out of character if President Clinton didn't get out of his limousine and walk part way to the White House, and he paid attention and got out. And Britt Hume, you're closer to him than anybody.
He's right now at the corner of 15th and Pennsylvania Avenue, right there where the Treasury Department is, Peter. And what is striking, apart from the sight of him out in the street and the excitement of the crowd, is that as we pass these blocks and look back up 14th Street, up 13th Street, and then down this peculiar little block of Pennsylvania Avenue before we came here, it is chock-a-block with people. I have never seen such a crowd in these streets.
Well, it's very refreshing, Britt, to see him get out of the car, I must say. Barbara Walters particularly was sitting here and saying, oh, wouldn't it be terrible and out of character, and how it would have seemed that things had changed so radically. But there he is. It's a beautiful day. No coats, right, Britt?
Peter, I rather suspect that he had to be dissuaded by the security people from going over and plunging himself into the crowd. I have never seen a public figure with a greater taste for that than Bill Clinton. He loves to do it. It seems to mean something to him personally. He seems to draw something from it. Rare is the end of an event, particularly at the end of a day when he has nowhere else to go, that this man does not plunge into the crowd and try, if he can, to touch every person in the room, along the street, wherever it is.
Well, this is a little bit of a repeat of a conversation we had earlier this morning as we see him out there, but Britt is absolutely correct, I think, from everybody who's covered him up close, that he derives energy from this. And to be cut off from this, to be cut off from this democratic contact with people by the Secret Service would be appalling.
What must he be feeling? We keep talking about it, but this dream since childhood. And by the way, we were talking earlier about the fashions and Hillary's disregard. You know, she doesn't want to be a fashion plate. Her press secretary had sent out exactly what she was wearing, a fuchsia dress. And she got up this morning, I guess, Mrs. Clinton, and said, I don't feel like wearing that fuchsia dress. So what? Does it matter what's put out? Bright pink. She put on what she's comfortable in and what was good for a day where she might want to walk without a coat. She looks good.
What effect will this have on the fashion industry, Barbara?
Well, you know, the fashion industry, we sometimes make fun of it, but it's one of the biggest industries in this country. Right? And what this means is that there'll be a great many new designers we haven't heard of, like Sarah Phillips, who's only 37 years old, who made the dress that Mrs. Clinton's going to be wearing tonight. Yes, the established designers, the Bill Blass, the Oscar de la Rentas, the Scazi, who designed for Mrs. Bush, they're still there. But this is a younger generation of names we don't know, less expensive in price. And they're going to have their chance, too, just as we have a new and younger president and first lady. So it's good for the fashion industry. And it's American-made clothes and clothes that are comfortable. And that's about all I want to say about fashion for the moment, because if I go on much more, I'm going to start talking about Socks the cat, and those are the two things that I kept saying I wasn't going to dwell on today. But I know more about Socks the cat than I think anyone wants to know.
Well, of course, we remind people we're talking about a new generation. Bill Clinton is 46, and Hillary Rodham Clinton is 45. She used to be just Hillary Rodham, and then when that became of some political concern and difficulty to him as governor of Arkansas, she decided to become Hillary Rodham Clinton, HRC, it says on all the moving boxes that have come up from Little Rock to the White House. Barbara, they can't have brought everything with her from Little Rock. Do you know what they brought that was special?
Well, the beds, I understand, stay from White House to White House. Every president's wife has the opportunity, if she wants to redecorate, but she doesn't have to. One of the things that I think is interesting, Mrs. Bush was extremely nice to Mrs. Clinton, as she should have been, in showing her around, showing her even the laundry chute. Took time. Introduced Mrs. Clinton to everyone in the White House. The reason for this, and Mrs. Bush has said to friends, is that Mrs. Reagan did not do it with her. In all of the years that the Reagans were in the White House, the Bushes were never in the private quarters. And Mrs. Bush never really got to see the area until she actually came in as the First Lady. And in the 4 years that the Bushes were in the White House, they never had the Reagans to a state dinner. So although the ladies superficially expressed a friendship, there was not a great deal of affection. Mrs. Bush said this would not happen between her and Mrs. Clinton, and Mrs. Clinton knows everything she could know at this very brief period about the White House, where she'll live, what rooms she'll use, and where the laundry chute is.
Now, I have a question for you. It was put to me by the curator of the White House, who's in charge of the interior.
I hope it's about hookers. I'm very...
No.
I'm sorry, David. Go ahead.
He said, which First Lady do you think, in modern times, which one did the best job of redecorating?
Oh, that's Jackie Kennedy.
No, that's what everyone...
You're going to say Mrs.
No, I'm going to tell you
Reagan?
what he said.
Oh, I
Pat
said
Nixon. Pat Nixon.
Isn't that interesting? We wouldn't expect it.
And this is the curator. He's been there a long time. He knows every foot of the building.
Well, I think Jackie Kennedy did the downstairs.
Well, she did a lot.
Rooms. Yeah.
Let's go down to 15th and Pennsylvania Avenue. Jeff Greenfield.
Well, President and Mrs. Clinton are smack in the middle of the street. He's without an overcoat, and he is looking very chipper. I guess this is what happens to Yale Law School graduates when they succeed in life. I'm standing here with a microphone, and he's the President of the United States. That's how it goes. But the crowd is, as you might expect, incredibly enthusiastic. The weather has turned even better than it was at the inaugural. It feels like spring, which, given the remarks in his inaugural address, maybe he has even more power than we thought as President of the United States. No overcoat, as you can see, no gloves. And he's just working one side of the street and the other. And I guess you could say he looks like a man who's, as the late Red Barber said, sitting in the catbird seat. It is as good-natured a crowd as you can imagine. They usually are on Inauguration Day. But a combination, I think, of the weather and, as you said, Peter, the fact that this is a staunchly Democratic town has got this crowd really, really in a terrific mood. I have not seen one negative sign. I'm sure there are some. I have not seen one incident. The police are being terrific. The Secret Service is being cooperative. It's just one of those days where perhaps 3 months from now, when he's locked in battle with the Congress, he'll look back and say, well, we got off to one heck of a start. Peter?
Thanks, Jeff. There haven't been many signs. We saw one a little while ago that said no new taxes, and when still Governor Clinton, or still President-elect Clinton, went to the for the interfaith service this morning, the anti-abortion forces were out in front of the African Methodist Church, and that is about all. And some people asked him not to mock God, but I think your characterization of the spirit of the day is absolutely precise. And just to pick up a little bit on what you said about the spring, when President Clinton began his inaugural remarks, he said that we celebrate the mystery of American renewal, and that's what so many people who've been in town over the last several days have felt. He said that the inaugural ceremony was held in the depths of winter, but by the words we speak and the faces we show the world, we force the spring. And that may be the reference that Jeff is making to presidential influence.
He's in front of the White House now.
They will go into the White House to freshen up for just a few minutes. Then they will come out to the reviewing stand in front of the White House, and this gigantic inauguration parade will begin in earnest before them. Yes,
I met yesterday Matt McLarty, who's the new chief of staff, who said that at 12:01, the Clinton people manned the telephones and moved into the offices, and by 2:30, so it's after that time now here, he himself, the chief of staff, will be there. And you were talking this morning, and it was really very moving, about this peaceful kind of transition. And here we have, just in the business of moving into the White House, in 1 minute, a whole new staff takes over. That's a difficult job.
Well, I don't want to make too much of it, but, you know, I spent a lot of my adult life in countries where there was no democracy, or where democracy was being plucked from somebody at the end of a gun. And despite what we've said about the onerous qualities of the Secret Service today, I think that those of us who've seen it in other countries and seen what people in other countries endure at the hands of their government are trebly impressed by what we see today.
You know, and I was just talking about a little bit of the, perhaps a little discord between the former First Ladies, but I must also say that the First Ladies are always gracious to each other. The presidents are gracious to each other. If there are hard feelings, you never know it on this day.